Hi, Shavon Lindley here, CEO of Women Evolution and creator of the Forbes interview series, Rising Leaders. I am here today with Executive Director Dianne Bevelander. So if you want to check out her article live right now on Forbes, you can click the link below and read the official Forbes interview. And after this interview, you're going to have an opportunity to ask Dianne your questions directly. We're going to be hosting a live Q&A about 72 hours after this article goes live, where you get to ask your questions to Dianne directly. No matter what they are, she's going to be able to navigate them. So if your questions aren't answered today, click on my Facebook page, Shavon Lindley, click like, so that way you can be notified exactly when that live Q&A is going to happen. Dianne Bevelander is leading the drive for women's empowerment as the executive director of the Erasmus Center for Women in Organizations in the Netherlands. So thank you for spending your valuable time with me, and I'm so glad we were able to coordinate a time across the globe for us to do this interview. But I would love to get started with just, did you always know that you wanted to be in academics?
Oh, no, I didn't. I knew I wanted to be, let's say, in education. I kind of had a love for education, but I never thought I would be an academic. So, I was raised in South Africa. I worked at an education institution there, got married, and then came to the Netherlands. And slowly but surely, that's when my academic career started. And I think it's also about reinventing yourself in some way. I started in administration and actually became associate dean, and then decided, well, I was writing papers at that time, and I thought, well, why don't I just do my PhD and actually become an academic? And I think also what happened at that time was I found my passion. My passion was to be an advocate, I think, for women, and especially women in mid-level going up the career path. And how did that happen? While I was doing my PhD, I was looking at social networks, and I was looking at who works with whom, who socializes with whom, and I was using actually our MBA students as data. And I asked a question in the data about, if you had a risky project, who would you ask to be on your team? And I was actually looking at more diversity in general, not in gender. And then a colleague said, why don't you look at the difference, or if there's anything you can see between men and women? And actually, I was horrified, if I can say the word horrified, when I saw the results. Because what I actually saw, and this changed my life, actually. This is about reinventing myself. What I actually saw was that women like to work with other women, men like to work with men and with women. But when the question came up about who would you ask to be on your team if you had a risky project, men asked men, women asked men, men asked women, but then you just saw a whole dip in women actually asking women. And I thought, no, this can't be true. But that was what the data showed. And then I looked at, well, why? Why is this happening? Why are women not asking other women if there's a risk involved? And then I thought, if this is happening at universities or just here, when an MBA program, what is actually happening in organizations? And could this be part of the problem? So you always have to look at reasons why. And I just started to look at actually where I was working. I actually looked at education, but business schools in particular. And even where I was working, I was horrified. I started to realize all the cases that the students were given, all, I would say 99% actually, there was a male protagonist. And I thought, no, this can't be true. So then I even went to the woman and I said, is there no case where the woman is the protagonist? And they thought and thought, and they said, yes, there was one, a pregnancy case in organizational behavior. I started to look at even the books that they used. Many were written by men. Most of the lecturers were men. Most of the guest lecturers were men. And even in the leadership class, right, they were talking about men, and usually old white men. And I thought, well, no wonder, subliminally, we've been giving the message, right, that actually leadership is a male issue. And that actually changed my whole course. And I started focusing on gender.
And that had to be upsetting at the time to kind of recognize or to see this pattern, this consistency over time. And so what did you end up doing with that information?
Well, first I thought, oh, I've found something now. Right now I found, I'm going to rush off to the people in power and tell them, and they're going to thank me profusely, and we're going to change things. Yeah, I can see you're already laughing. Well, I went to the people in power, and they said, like, what's the matter? Everything kind of works. And I said, what's the matter? You know, all this talent is being wasted. What do you mean, what's the matter? You know, let us do something. And they kind of, well, there's not much to do. And the usual stories we got, you know, we can't find female academics, all of these type of things. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to change things. This just cannot be. I cannot accept this. And this is where I tell women, be brave and make noise. If you see something that's not right, be brave and make noise. And that's what I did. I was associate dean, so I had quite a bit of power over the curriculum at that time. And first I started, well, we changed a number of things, but I'll make it short. I started a diversity course. Well, who came to the diversity course? Women, maybe one or two men, probably a partner or a boyfriend of one of the women in the group. They sat at the back, and you could see they were praying that I wouldn't ask them any questions. So I thought, well, you know, this is not useful. Let me think of something else I can do. And then I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start a course, a leadership course for women only, but that men would love to join. And I was thinking, what could I do? You know, if I do a musical or I do theater, men aren't interested. And then I met this wonderful woman, Rebecca Stevens. And Rebecca Stevens was the first woman to summit Mount Everest, the first British woman, to summit Mount Everest. Plus she did all 7 summits. And her and I spoke, and I thought, now I know what we're going to do. I'm going to raise money to set up a leadership course for women only, accredited leadership course for women only to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And the reason for this, right, was A, to make noise, also to show women, right, you can do anything you want to do, even if there's a mountain in the way. I'm going to help you build confidence. I'm going to help you work with other women, right, strong women, and I'm going to show you it can be done. So that's what I did.
It's absolutely brilliant.
I managed to raise money for them to climb for 4 years, and it was magnificent.
How did the community respond?
Well, you know, it was like what I said, you know, when I went to the people in power, I thought, oh, they're going to say, let's change everything. But everything is, I realize, in small steps. And when you make noise and you be brave, right, you're going to have to realize that not everyone is in your camp. And this also, you know, and wants change as much as I, in this case, wanted change. And there was a lot of pushback. But there was such a lot of positive response from the community, from the women. And, you know, I was in the New York Times. I was in many newspapers. So all of a sudden, this noise started to come up, and people started to have to take notice. Those who didn't like me, and I'm sure there were many, I mean, I even went to kind of one room, and there was a picture, well, it's a dartboard. They'd made a dartboard, and they put a picture of Rebecca Stevens and myself in the middle. But I didn't mind. I thought, well, at least I'm kind of making noise and getting people nervous. And I must say, you know, this was 4 years ago. No, this wasn't. It was, 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. Where has the time gone? The university, I have seen a lot of change at the university, and a lot of discussion and debate since that period. You know, we have now a diversity board, diversity ambassadors. Of course, change is not as fast as I would like it. So I realize if there's going to be change, it's going to have to be in small steps. And I see it happening now.
There must have been so many life lessons learned as they climbed to the summit. What were some of the ones that stick out in your mind still today?
as I said, it was not about summiting, right? And I really want to make that wasn't about getting to the top. It was for these women about learning to work with other strong, driven, ambitious women, because how often do we get an opportunity to work with other strong, ambitious women? It was about women supporting other women, right? It's about sisterhood, because gender bias is not it's not a male issue, it's a male and female issue. Actually, women are just as biased towards women as men are. So there were many lessons that I wanted them to learn and achieve, and learning how to trust one another, even when there's a mountain in the way. When they came down, of course, we debrief, and I followed many of them for a number of years now. And I mean, my heart just swells. So many of them had gifts inside them that weren't opened. And many of these gifts now have been opened, and the confidence, unbelievable. Bad relationships ended, leaving jobs you didn't like, starting, becoming an entrepreneurship. I mean, this is not a small thing. There was one woman, she was so scared of speaking in public, right? Not even public speaking, but just speaking even in a big group, even in the class. After climbing Kilimanjaro, she came and asked if she could do the graduation speech on Kilimanjaro in front of 700 people, from someone who started, who wouldn't even talk in class, to doing this. I mean, I just wanted to hug her. And, as I said, I just see these gifts being opened. And what's also so amazing is that they're helping other women open these gifts as well. So it really is about sisterhood and about confidence.
Yeah, if I can do this, I can do anything.
Exactly. Even if there's a mountain in the way.
Your first Kilimanjaro leadership expedition was in 2011. And something even more life-changing was happening to you personally in 2011.
Yeah. There's always surprises that come along the way. Some good surprises, as you know, and some bad. And for me, this was another life-changing surprise. I got cancer, and I couldn't go with the students. I think when they started to climb, I started my first chemo session. So I never got to go to Kilimanjaro. I actually lived vicariously through them. And let me tell you about taking risk as well. I still remember the first day they started to climb. And I thought to myself, what have I done, Dianne? How could I have what happens if one of them hurts themselves? What happens if one of them dies of altitude sickness? I'm going to see in the newspaper, Dianne kills MBA student. How could I have even taken such a risk? But nothing happened in the 4 years. And I'm really, really glad I took the risk. But going back to what's happening to me, it was devastating. It still is devastating. But I want to tell everyone that I have lived an amazing, amazing life. I have traveled. I have a beautiful family. I have found my passion, which is an advocate for women. I have friends. I enjoy getting up every day and coming to work. And I consider myself very lucky. There is no discussion anymore about being cured or remission at the moment. And this is hard, but at the moment, what we're trying to do is actually get a plateau in my declining health. So I don't work full-time anymore. I work 3 days a week. And, I'm not going to get better. And I must admit, as someone who loves engaging in so many things, this is pretty traumatic. But I've been battling this now, as you can see, for 6 or 7 years. And my main priority now is to focus on leaving a legacy and getting someone to take over the center and make sure what we started continues.
Thank you for sharing that. And you really are fighting two fights, aren't you?
The other one is how, the one fight is extending my life. How can I keep on extending my life and still having quality of life? So it's not just extending life, but really extending and having quality of life. And the other is to continue, the story of Echo that I started. And, I think I've always just wanted to be a role model. I want to be a role model, even in this period, for my friends, for my colleagues, for my children, and for the women that I meet every single day. I want to show them it doesn't really matter what mountain you're facing. You have choice. And the only choice I have, I can't change that mountain that I'm facing. I really can't. But I have choice how I'm going to deal with it. Am I going to savor every moment I have left? And I am. Every day I get up, and even if I don't want to, there are days that I'm so fatigued that I can't get up, right? I say, okay, today I'm going to just do something small. I'll just go to the shop, and there are other days that I have more energy than anyone else. And I want people to know that you have choice. You can, I decided for myself that I was not going to just sit and say, right, I'm depressed. I'm not going to do anything. Life is unfair. I'm going to continue every single day as long as I can. And it always just reminds me, I love Mary Oliver's poetry, and it always just reminds me of this beautiful, beautiful quote from her. And it says, look, I want to love this world as though it's the last chance I'm ever going to get to be alive and know it. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to love this world.
You have been hearing from Dianne Bevelander, Executive Director of the Erasmus Center for Women in Organizations. I'm Shavon Lindley, Forbes contributor and CEO of Women Evolution. Do you know any other female leader that we should feature in this series? Please send them to the Shavon Lindley page on Facebook so they can apply. There's an application right at the top where you can apply for yourself or someone else. Also, if you have any questions for Dianne that you want to learn more, obviously, as you heard from her story, she has extensive experience and knowledge that she can share. Make sure you stay tuned and find out exactly when the live Q&A is going to happen, where you can ask your questions to her directly. Thank you so much, Dianne, for being here, and thank everyone for spending your time with us. And I know everybody will be taking one braver step today because of you. Thank you.
Thank you.